If you're like me, you've probably thought about what it'd be like to live in the future. Well, I will tell you. I'm going to read a chapter of Physics of the Future: How Science Will Shape Human Destiny and Our Daily Lives by the Year 2100 by Michio Kaku. In the book, chapter by chapter, he just discusses different elements of the future, like the future of medicine, the future of AI, the future of robotics, all sorts of things, and goes into detail kind of about the history of that itself and about how it's going to change in the future. So, let's get started. Feels almost like I'm spoiling the book for you because I'm flipping all the way to the end, but really it gives you a preview on everything else that he discusses in the book, and he discusses it in much more detail. And now the chapter starts. A Day in the Life 2100. January 1st, 2100, 6:15 a.m. After a night of heavy partying on New Year's Eve, you are sound asleep. Suddenly, your wall screen lights up. A friendly, familiar face appears on the screen. It's Molly, the software program you bought recently. Molly announces cheerily, "John, wake up. You are needed in the office. In person. It's important." "Now wait a minute, Molly. You've got to be kidding," you grumble. "It's New Year's Day and I have a hangover. What could possibly be so important anyway?" Slowly, you drag yourself out of bed and reluctantly head off to the bathroom. While washing your face, hundreds of hidden DNA and protein sensors in the mirror, toilet, and sink silently spring into action, analyzing the molecules you emit in your breath and bodily fluids, checking for the slightest hint of any disease at the molecular level. Leaving the bathroom, you wrap some wires around your head, which allow you to telepathically control your home. You mentally raise the temperature of your apartment, turn on some soothing music, tell the robotic cook in the kitchen to make breakfast and brew some coffee, and order your magnetic car to leave the garage and be ready to pick you up. As you enter the kitchen, you see the mechanical arms of the robotic cook preparing eggs just the way you like them. Then you put in your contact lenses and connect to the internet. Blinking, you see the internet as it shines into the retina of your eye. While drinking hot coffee, you start scanning headlines that flash in your contact lenses. The outpost on Mars is requesting more supplies. Winter on Mars is fast approaching. If the settlers are going to complete the next stage of colonization, they need resources from Earth to handle the freezing cold weather. The plan is to start the first phase of terraforming Mars by raising its surface temperature. The first starships are ready for launch. Millions of nanobots, each about the size of a pinhead, will be fired from the moon base, whip around Jupiter using its magnetic field, and head off to a nearby star. It will take years, however, before a handful of these nanobots reach their destination in another star system. Yet another extinct animal is going to join the local zoo. This time, it's a rare saber-toothed tiger, brought back via DNA found frozen in the tundra. Because the Earth has been heating up, DNA from more and more extinct animals have been recovered and then cloned to fill zoos around the world. The space elevator, after years of hauling freight into space, is now allowing a limited number of tourists into outer space. The cost of space travel has already plummeted in recent years by a factor of 50 since the space elevator opened. The oldest fusion plants are now almost 50 years old. The time is coming to begin decommissioning some of them and building new ones. Scientists are carefully monitoring a new lethal virus that suddenly sprang out of the Amazon. So far, it seems confined to a small area, but there is no known cure. Teams of scientists are frantically sequencing its genes to learn its weak spots and how to fight it. Suddenly, one item catches your eye. A large leak has unexpectedly been detected in the dikes surrounding Manhattan. Unless the dikes are repaired, the entire city can be submerged, like scores of other cities in the past. Uh-oh, you say to yourself. So that's why the office called to wake me up. You skip breakfast, dress, and dash out the door. Your car, which drove itself out of the garage, is waiting for you outside. You telepathically order your car to take you to your office as quickly as possible. The magnetic car instantly accesses the internet, the GPS, and billions of chips hidden in the road that constantly monitor traffic. Your magnetic car takes off silently, floating on a cushion of magnetism created by the superconducting pavement. Molly's face suddenly appears on the windshield of your car. John, the latest message from your office says for you to meet everyone in the conference room. Also, you have a video message from your sister. With the car driving itself, you have time to scan the video mail left by your sister. Her image appears in your wristwatch and says, "John, remember this weekend we have a birthday party for Kevin, who's now 6. You promised to buy him the latest robot dog. And by the way, are you seeing anyone? I was playing bridge on the internet and I met someone you might like." Uh-oh, you say to yourself. You love cruising in your magnetic car. There are no bumps or potholes to worry about since it's hovering over the road. Best of all, you rarely need to fuel it up since there's almost no friction to slow it down. It's hard to believe, you muse to yourself, that there was an energy crisis in the earliest part of the century. You shake your head, realizing that most of the energy was wasted in overcoming friction. You remember when the first superconducting highway first opened. The media lamented that the familiar age of electricity was coming to a close, ushering the new age of magnetism. Actually, you don't miss the age of electricity one bit. Glancing outside, sleek cars, trucks, and trains whizzing past you in the air, you realize that magnetism is the way to go, and saves money in the process. Your magnetic car now cruises past the city dump. You see that most of the junk is computer and robot parts, with chips costing almost nothing, even less than water. Obsolete ones are piling in the city dumps all around the world. Next section, the office. Finally, you reach your office building, the headquarters of a major construction company. As you enter, you hardly notice that a laser is silently checking your iris and identifying your face. No more need for plastic security cards. Your identity is your body. The conference room is nearly empty, with only a few coworkers sitting around the table. But then, in your contact lens, the 3D images of the participants begin to rapidly materialize around the table. Those who cannot come to the office are here holographically. You glance around the room. Your contact lens identifies all the people sitting at the table, displaying their biographies and backgrounds. Quite a few big shots here, you notice. You make a mental note of the important people attending. The image of your boss suddenly materializes in his chair. "Gentlemen," he announces, "as you've probably heard, the dikes around Manhattan have suddenly begun to leak. It's serious, but we've caught it in time, so there's no danger of collapse. Yet unfortunately, the robots we have sent down to repair the dikes have failed." Instantly, the lights dim and you are completely surrounded by the 3D image of the underwater dike. You are completely immersed in the water, the image of the dike with a huge crack staring at you in the face. As the image rotates, you can see precisely where the leak has occurred. You can see a large, strange gash in the dike that catches your attention. "Robots are not enough," your boss continues. This is a type of leak that is not a part of their programming. We need to send experienced people down there who can size up the situation and improvise. I don't have to remind you that if we fail, New York can suffer the same fate as other great cities, some now underwater. A shudder goes through the group. Everyone knows the names of the great cities that had to be abandoned as sea levels rose. Although renewable technologies and fusion power displaced fossil fuels many decades ago as the main source of planet's energy, people are still suffering from the carbon dioxide that was already released into the atmosphere in the first part of the century. After much discussion, it is decided to send the human-controlled robot repair crew. This is where you come in. You help design these robots. Trained human workers are placed in pods where electrodes are fitted around their heads. Their brain signals allow them to make telepathic contact with the robots. From their pods, the workers can see and feel everything that the robots see and feel. It's just like being there in person, except in a new, superhuman body. You are justifiably proud of your work. These telepathically controlled robots have proven their worth many times over. The moon base is largely controlled by human workers who lie comfortably and safely on their pods on Earth. But since it takes a second for the radio signal to reach the moon, it also means that these workers have to be trained to adjust for time delay. You would have loved to put your robots on the Mars base too, but since it takes up to 20 minutes for a signal to reach Mars and 20 minutes to come back, communicating with robots on Mars would be too difficult. Alas, for all our progress, there is one thing you cannot adjust: the speed of light. But something is still bothering you at the meeting. Finally, you summon the nerve to interrupt your boss. Sir, I hate to say this, but looking at the leak in the dike, the crack looks suspiciously like a mark left by one of our own robots. A loud murmur suddenly fills the room. You can hear the rising chorus of objections. Our own robot? Impossible. Preposterous. It's never happened before. People protest. Then your boss quiets the room and responds solemnly. I was afraid someone would raise this issue, so let me say that this is a matter of great importance, which has to be kept strictly confidential. This information must not leave this room until we issue our own press release. Yes, this leak was caused by one of our own robots that suddenly went out of control. Pandemonium breaks out in the meeting. People are shaking their heads. How can this be? Our robots have a perfect record, your boss insists. Absolutely spotless. Not a single robot has caused harm, ever. Their fail-safe mechanisms have proved effective again and again. We stand by that record. But as you know, our latest generation of advanced robots use quantum computers, which are the most powerful available, even approaching human intelligence. Yes, human intelligence. And in the quantum theory, there will always be a small but definite probability that something wrong will happen. In this case, go berserk. You slump back into your chair, overwhelmed by the news. Next section. Home again. It has been a very long day, first organizing the robot repair crew to fix the leak, and then helping to deactivate all experimental robots that use quantum computers. At least this issue is finally resolved. You're finally back home again. You are exhausted. Just as you sink comfortably into your sofa, Molly appears on the wall screen. John, you have an important message from Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown? What does your robot doctor have to say? Put him on the screen, you say to Molly. Your doctor appears on the wall screen. Dr. Brown is so realistic that you sometimes forget that he is just a software program. Sorry to bother you, John, but there is something I have to bring to your attention. Remember your skiing accident last year? The one that almost killed you? How could you forget? You still cringe when you remember how you plowed into a tree while skiing in what is left of the Alps. Since most of the alpine snow has already melted, You had to choose an unfamiliar resort at a very high altitude. Unaccustomed to the terrain, you accidentally tumbled down the slope and slammed into a bunch of trees at 40 miles per hour. Ouch. Dr. Brown continues, my records show that you were knocked unconscious, suffering a concussion and massive internal injuries, but your clothes saved your life. Although you were unconscious, your clothes automatically called for an ambulance, uploaded your medical history, and located your precise coordinates. Then, at the hospital, robots performed microsurgery to stop the bleeding, sew up any tiny ruptured blood vessels, and patched up any other damage. Your stomach, liver, and intestines were damaged beyond repair, Dr. Brown reminds you. Luckily, we could grow a new set of organs for you just in time. Suddenly, you feel a little bit like a robot yourself, with so much of your body made from organs grown in a tissue factory. You know, John, my records also show that you could have replaced your shattered arm with a fully mechanical one. The latest robot arm would have increased the strength in your arm by a factor of 5, but you declined. Yes, you reply. I guess I'm still an old-fashioned guy. I'll take flesh over steel any day, you say. John, we have to do a periodic checkup on your new organs. Pick up your MRI scanner and slowly pass it over your stomach area. You go to the bathroom and pick up a small device, about the size of a cell phone, and slowly pass it over your organs. Immediately on the screen, you can see the 3D image of your internal organs lighting up. John, we are going to analyze these images to see how your body is healing. By the way, this morning the DNA sensors in your bathroom detected cancer growing in your pancreas. Cancer? You suddenly straighten up. You're puzzled. But I thought cancer was cured years ago. No one even talks about it that much anymore. How can I have cancer? Actually, scientists never cured cancer. Let's just say we're in a truce with cancer. A stalemate. There are too many types of cancer, like the common cold. We've never cured that either. We can simply keep it at bay. I've ordered some nanoparticles to zap those cancer cells. There are only a few hundred of them, just routine. But without this intervention, you probably would have died in about 7 years, he deadpans. Oh, that's a relief, you say to yourself. Yes, today we can spot cancer years before a tumor forms, says Dr. Brown. Tumor? What's that? Oh, that's an old-fashioned word for a type of advanced cancer. It's pretty much disappeared from the language. We never see them anymore, adds Dr. Brown. Then you realize in all this excitement, you forgot that your sister threatened to set you up with someone. You call up Molly again. Molly, I'm not doing anything this weekend, so can you find a date for me? You know the kind of person I like. Yes, your preferences are programmed in my memory. Wait a minute while I scan the internet. After a minute, Molly displays profiles of promising candidates who are also sitting in front of their wall screens asking the same question. After scanning the candidates, you finally select one that appeals to you. This person, called Karen, somehow looks special, you think to yourself. Molly, send Karen a polite message asking her if she's available this weekend. There's a new restaurant that just opened that I want to try. Molly then sends Karen your profile in a video mail. That night, you relax by having some of your coworkers come over for a beer and watch some football. Your friends could have watched the game by appearing in your living room via holographic images, but somehow cheering for the home team is more enjoyable with your friends than joining in this excitement in person. You smile, imagining that this is probably how it was thousands of years ago, when cavemen had to bond with one another. Suddenly, the entire living room is illuminated, and it appears as if you are right on the football field at the 50-yard line. As the quarterback makes a forward pass, you stand right next to him. The game is being played all around you. During halftime, you and your friends begin sizing up the players. Over beer and popcorn, you hotly debate who trains the most, practices the hardest, and has the best coaches, and has the best gene therapist. Your home team, you all agree, has the best geneticists in the league, with the best genes money can buy. After your friends have left, you are still too excited to go to sleep, so you decide to play a quick game of poker before turning in. Molly, you ask, it's late, but I want to set up a game of poker. I'm feeling lucky. Someone must be awake in England, China, India, or Russia who might want to play a few hands right now. No problem, says Molly. A number of promising faces appear on your screen. As the 3D images of each player materialize in your living room, you relish the idea of seeing who can bluff the best. It's funny, you say to yourself, that you are more familiar with people in distant countries thousands of miles away than with your next-door neighbors. National boundaries just don't mean much these days. Finally, just before you turn in, Molly interrupts you again, speaking in the bathroom mirror. John, Karen accepted your invitation. Everything is set for this weekend, and we'll make a reservation at that new restaurant. Do you want to see the profile she wrote about herself? Do you want me to scan the internet to verify the accuracy of her profile? People have been known to lie about their profiles. No, you say. Let's keep it a surprise for the weekend. After that poker game, you feel lucky again. Next section, the weekend. It's the weekend now, and time to go shopping and buy a present for Kevin. Molly, put the mall on the screen. The mall suddenly appears on the wall screen. You wave your arms and fingers, and the image on the wall screen traces a path through the mall. You take a virtual tour until you arrive at the image of the toy store. Yes, they have exactly the toy robot pets you want. You telepathically order the car to take you to the mall. You could have ordered the toy online, or you could have had the blueprints emailed to you and then had your fabricator materialize the toy at home from scratch using programmable matter. But it's always good to get out of the apartment once in a while. Cruising in your magnetic car, you look outside and see people taking a walk. It's such a nice day. You also see robots of all sorts. Robots to walk the dog, robot clerks, cooks, receptionists, and pets. It seems that every task that is dangerous, repetitive, or requires only the simplest human interaction is being duplicated by robots. In fact, robots are now big business. All around you, you see ads for anyone who can repair, service, upgrade, or build robots. Anyone in the field of robotics has a bright future. The robot business is bigger than the automobile industry of the last century. And most of the robots, you realize, are hidden from view, silently repairing the city's infrastructure and maintaining essential services. When you reach the toy store, a robot clerk greets you at the entrance. "Can I help you?" it says. "Yes, I want to buy a robot dog." You look over the latest robot dogs. Amazing what robots can do, you say to yourself. They can play, run, fetch, do anything a dog can do. Everything but pee on the carpet. Maybe that's why parents buy them for their kids, you muse. Then you say to the robot clerk, "I'm buying a robot for my 6-year-old nephew. He's very intelligent, hands-on type of kid, but he's also sometimes shy and quiet. What kind of dog might help bring him out of his shell?" The robot replies, "I'm sorry, sir, that is outside of my programming. Perhaps I can interest you in a space toy." You forgot that robots, no matter how versatile, have a long way to go before they understand human behavior. Then you go to the men's department store. Time to replace that ratty old outfit of yours if you want to impress your date. You put on some designer suits. They all look stylish, but they are all the wrong size. You're disappointed. But then you take out your credit card, which contains all your precise 3D measurements. Your data is fed into the computer, and a new suit is being cut at a factory that will soon be delivered to your door. A perfect fit every time. Last, you go to the supermarket. You scan all the chips hidden in each plastic item in the market, and then in your contact lenses, you compare prices to see which store in the city has the cheapest, best products. No more guesswork about who has the lowest prices. Next section, the date. You've been looking forward to this date all week. Preparing to meet Karen, you're surprised that you feel like a schoolboy again. You decide that if you're going to invite her to your apartment after dinner, you will have to do some serious remodeling of your worn-out furniture. Fortunately, most of the kitchen counters and living room furniture is made out of programmable matter. Molly, you say, can you show me the catalog of new kitchen counters and furniture offered by the manufacturer? I want to reprogram the furniture. It looks so old. Soon, the pictures of the latest furniture designs flash on the screen. Molly, please download the blueprints for this kitchen counter, that sofa, and this table, and then install them, please. While you're getting ready for your date, Molly downloads and installs the blueprints. Instantly, the kitchen countertop, living room sofa, and table begin to dissolve, turning into something that looks like putty, and then gradually reform into new shapes. In an hour, your apartment looks brand new. Recently, you were scanning the real estate section on the internet and noticed that houses made of programmable matter were becoming quite fashionable. In fact, at your engineering company, there are ambitious plans to create an entire city in the desert totally out of programmable matter. Push a button and poof, an instant city. Your apartment still looks a bit drab, you decide. You wave your hand and the pattern and color of the wallpaper change immediately. Having intelligent wallpaper certainly beats having to repaint the walls, you say to yourself. You grab some flowers along the way, and you finally pick up your date. You are pleasantly surprised. You hit it off right away. Something is clicking. Over dinner, you find out that Karen is an artist. Normally, she jokes she might be penniless, starving, and selling paintings along the sidewalk for a pittance. Instead, she's a very successful web designer. In fact, she has her own company. Everyone, it seems, wants the latest designs for the web. There is such a huge demand for creative art. She draws some circles in the air with her fingers, and some of the animations appear in thin air. Here are some of my latest creations, she says proudly. You comment, you know, as an engineer, I work with robots all day long. Some are pretty advanced, but they can also act pretty stupid at times. What about in your field? Are robots making any inroads? Absolutely not, she protests. Karen says she works exclusively with creative people, where the most prized commodity is imagination, something that the most advanced robots lacked. I may be old-fashioned, but in my field, we only use robots to make copies or do clerical work, she says proudly. I would like to see the day when robots can do something really original, like tell a joke, write a novel, or compose a symphony. That hasn't happened yet, but it might, you think to yourself. While she's talking, a question crosses your mind. How old is she? Since the aging process was medically slowed years ago, people can be any age. Her website did not say how old she was, but she does not look a day over 25. After taking her home, you begin to idly daydream. What would it be like to live with a person like her? To spend the rest of your life with her? But there is something that's bothering you. It's been nagging you all day. You face the wall screen and say, Molly, please call Dr. Brown for me. You are suddenly grateful that robotic doctors do house calls at any time of day, and they never complain or bellyache. It's not part of their programming. Dr. Brown's image instantly appears on the wall screen. Is there something bothering you, son? He asks in a fatherly way. Doc, I have to ask you a question that's been troubling me lately. Yes, what is that? Asks Dr. Brown. Doc, you say, how long do you think I'll live? You mean, what is your life expectancy? Well, we don't really know. Your records say that you are 72 years old, but biologically, your organs are more like 30 years old. You were part of the first generation to be genetically reprogrammed to live longer. You chose to stop aging at around 30. Not enough of your generation has died yet, so we have no data to work with. So we have no way of knowing how long you'll live. Then do you think I'll live forever? You ask. And be immortal? Dr. Brown frowns. No, I don't think so. There is a big difference between someone who lives forever and someone who has a lifespan so long that it hasn't been measured yet. But if I don't age, you protest, then how am I supposed to know when to get... You stop yourself in mid-sentence. Okay. You see, I just met someone special, and assuming I want to plan a life with her, how do I adjust the stages in my life to hers? If my generation hasn't lived long enough to die, you continue, then how am I supposed to know when to get married, have kids, and plan for retirement? How do I set the milestones in my life? I don't know the answer to that. You see, the human race is now a guinea pig of some sort, says Dr. Brown. I'm sorry, John, you are in uncharted waters here. Next section, the next few months. The next few months are a wonderful surprise for you and Karen. You take her to the virtual reality parlor and have great fun living out silly, imaginary lives, like being a kid again. You enter a vacant chamber. The software of a virtual world is beamed onto your contact lenses, and the scenery instantly changes. In one program, you are fleeing dinosaurs, but everywhere you run, another dinosaur pops out of the bushes. In another program, you are battling space aliens or pirates trying to board your ship. In another, you decide to change species and morph into two eagles that are soaring in the air. And in another program, you are basking on a romantic South Sea island or dancing in the moonlight with music gently floating in the air. After a while, you and Karen want to try something new. Instead of living out imaginary lives, you decide to lead real ones. So when you both have vacation time together, you decide to take a whirlwind tour throughout Europe. You say to the wall, Molly, Karen and I want to plan a European vacation, a real one. Please check on the flights, hotels, and any specials. Then list possible shows or events that might interest us. You know our tastes. In a few minutes, Molly has prepared a detailed itinerary. Later, when walking through the ruins of the Roman Forum, you can see the Roman Empire resurrected in your contact lenses. Passing by the scattered columns, stones, and debris, you gaze upon the might that was once imperial Rome at the height of its glory. And shopping is a delight, even when bargaining in the local shops in Italian. You can clearly see the translations appearing beneath the person you are talking to. And no more guidebooks and clumsy maps. Everything is in your contact lens. At night, gazing at the night sky over Rome, you can clearly see the stars arranged into constellations in your lens. Glancing across the sky, you can see the magnified images of the rings of Saturn, soaring comets, beautiful gas clouds, and exploding stars. One day, Karen finally reveals a secret, her true age. It's 61. Somehow, that doesn't seem very important anymore. So, Karen, do you feel happier now that we live so long? Yes, she replies immediately. My grandmother lived in a time when women got married and had a family and maybe squeezed in a career. But I like to feel that I've been reincarnated 3 times with 3 careers, and I've never looked back. First, I was a tour guide in several countries traveling the world. It was a wonderful life. Tourism is such a huge industry with plenty of jobs. But later I wanted to do something more relevant, so I became a lawyer, defending cases and people I cared about. Then I decided to indulge my artistic side and started my web design company. And you know something? I'm proud to say I never used a robot. No robot can be used as a personal tour guide, win a case in court, or produce beautiful artwork. Time will tell, you think to yourself. And are you planning for a 4th career? You ask. Well, maybe if something better comes along, she smiles at you. Karen, you finally say, if we stop aging, then how do you know when is the best time for, getting married and having kids and raising a family? The biological clock went out the window decades ago, so I was thinking, maybe it's time to settle down and have a family. You mean have children? Karen says, a bit surprised. That's something I haven't considered seriously. Well, until now, that is. It all depends on if the right man comes along, she says, as she smiles mischievously at you. Later, you and Karen discuss marriage and what name you might choose for a kid, and also what genes you would want that kid to have. You go to the wall screen and say, Molly, can you give me the list of the latest genes that have been approved by the government? As you scan the list, you see various genes for hair color, eye color, height, build, and even some personality traits that are now being offered. The list seems to grow every year. You can also see the long list of hereditary diseases that can now be cured. Since cystic fibrosis has run in your family for centuries, it's a relief to not have to worry about that anymore. Scanning the list of approved genes, you feel that you are not just a future parent, but some sort of god creating a child to order in your image. Then Molly says, there's a program that can analyze a baby's DNA and then give a reasonable approximation of its future face, body shape, and personality. Do you want to download this program and see what your child might look like in the future? No, you say. Something should be left as a mystery. Next section, a year later. Karen is now pregnant, but her doctors reassure her that there is no danger in taking a ride on the space elevator, which is now open to tourists. You admit to Karen, as a kid, I always wanted to go into outer space, do the astronaut thing. But one day I thought about sitting on top of millions of gallons of volatile rocket fuel that could explode with a single spark. Then my enthusiasm for space travel began to cool a bit. But the space elevator is different. Clean, safe, with no mess. That's the way to go. As you and Karen get into the elevator, you see the operator push what looks like the up button. You half expect to see the lingerie department. Instead, you feel yourself soaring into outer space. You feel the slow acceleration as you rapidly rise into the air. The gauge on the elevator reads 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles. Outside, you see the scenery changing, second by second. One moment, you're staring at fluffy clouds passing you as you soar into the atmosphere. Then, the sky changes from blue to purple to a deep black. And finally, you see stars surrounding you in all their splendor. You begin to make out the constellation as you have never seen them before, blazing away in the distance. The stars are not twinkling as they appear from Earth, but staring brightly as they have for billions of years. The elevator slowly comes to a stop about 100 miles from the surface of the Earth. From space, you see a dazzling sight that you previously only saw in pictures. Looking down, you suddenly see the Earth in an entirely new light. You see the oceans, the continents, and the lights of megacities that shine into outer space. From space, the Earth appears so serene that it's hard to believe that people once spilled blood fighting wars over silly borders. These nations still exist, but they seem so quaint, less relevant today, in an age when communication is instantaneous and ubiquitous. As Karen puts her head on your shoulder, you begin to realize that you are witnessing the birth of a new planetary civilization, and your kid will be among the first citizens of this new civilization. And then you take an old, worn book from your back pocket and read to her the words of someone who died more than 100 years ago. It reminds you of the challenges facing humanity before it attains a planetary civilization. Mahatma Gandhi once wrote, "The roots of violence. Wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, politics without principles." last chapter of Physics of the Future. I hope you enjoyed this reading of Physics of the Future. It's definitely a very fascinating book. Kaku interviews 300 of the world's top scientists, already working in their labs on astonishing prototypes. He also